Hey folks, thanks for checking this video out. Here we're continuing our deep dive into compression and how the parameters of a compressor are going to affect different instruments. This time we're taking a look at synths and keys, so let's just jump straight in. The first thing I want to say is about different types of keyboard instruments. I'm using keyboard instrument as a kind of umbrella term here, where I'm talking about essentially anything played on a keyboard. So pianos, synths, they all fall into a couple of different families. You've got percussive stuff and then sustained stuff. Take a listen to this synth. It definitely falls into the more percussive side of things, and it's kind of getting in the way of the vocals. So let's take a listen and then see how we can combat that. Now, the compressor is on here, it's engaged, but the threshold is all the way up, so it's not actually taking effect. Here how it's just kind of overlapping the vocal in the verse. Well, by using compression, we can make it sit a little further back in the mix. I'm actually going to be quite aggressive here and listen to things in the mix to get the threshold right. Then we'll discuss the other parameters and how they're affecting the sound. So let's listen in the mix and bring this threshold down. Then we'll talk about the settings. Okay, so you can hear that I'm being pretty aggressive there, but it's about getting out the way of that vocal. So what I'm going to do is just discuss the controls a little bit and see how we can shape this and see what's really important here. So just like with drums, the attack is about the initial hit, so it's about how fast it's going to attack. And in this instance, because it's a percussive kind of synth anyway, this is really the thing that's controlling how fast it's coming down and how much of that initial hit we actually get rid of. The ratio is playing a part here as well, but let's just bring this attack up and we'll hear how the hit just comes through too much and it's going to get in the way of the vocal, and we haven't really done our job if that's what's going on. So for me in this track, where I'm trying to get out the way of the vocal, this is allowing too much of the hit through, the initial percussive element. However, if that's what you're going for, if you're trying to make your synth more percussive and more attacky, then this is a great technique. You can bring the threshold down so you're really clamping down quite heavily on the synth, and then just bring that attack up. So here I'm kind of approaching 200 milliseconds, and that's just allowing all that initial hit to get through. So if you want to make it more percussive, that's a great way of doing it. Just lengthening that attack and just allowing it to come through. The ratio is all about how much we're compressing. So if I bring this attack down to kind of where it was before, pretty fast, then as I bring this ratio down, we're not going to hear as much squash. And for me, where I'm trying to get rid of the synth getting in the way of the vocal, it's not going to be as effective. We want quite a high ratio, but let's just take a listen as we bring this ratio down to 1 point something to 1. As we bring it up, we're going to start to get more aggressive and essentially more compression. So you can see it on the trace here as well. The more the orange line comes down, that's the peak reduction. You can see if it's hitting here, that's -5 dB of peak reduction. Here it's -10. So as I bring that ratio down, you're going to see that it's not compressing as much. There's not as much gain reduction. As I bring the ratio up, we're going to see there's more. Just take a look one more time. So as I have that ratio up at like nearly 7:1, we're getting almost 10 dB of gain reduction. And that's cool. You know, if that works, then it works. But at lower ratios, we're getting far less gain reduction. The release is very important for the tail and the body, because what we can do with this is we can make it so that we're really just kind of getting the hit, or we can make it so that we're lengthening the sustain as well. If you're checking out this orange trace as we just were, then how much it comes up, or should I say how steeply it comes up, the kind of gradient, that is the release parameter. That's how quickly it's coming back to life. The shorter I have the release, the quicker it's going to come back to its uncompressed state. So in effect, what we're doing is we're saying release really quickly and come back to a non-compressed state. So we're slamming down on that transient and then saying allow that body to come through. So in effect, in relative terms, we're kind of turning the body of the sound up. As I bring this release down, you're going to hear that body just come to life, and as it's longer, you're going to hear it just clamps down even more. So I'm going to start off with the release a little bit longer than I normally would. As I bring it down, just hear that sustain come back and really turn up. And having a really long release time is also kind of having an effect on the attack, because you're not allowing it to fully release before the next attack period takes place. It's not releasing fully before the next portion of the sound crosses that threshold. So that's really important. If you want to have some body there, if you want to kind of lengthen the sustain or increase the apparent level of the sustain, then you can bring that release down. If you want to make it so we're compressing quite a lot for quite a long time, then bring that release up and make it pretty long. So the threshold is the point at which it's starting to compress. In this instance, where we're trying to get rid of the clashing between the vocal and the synth, this is going to be really important. And as we did at the front of the video, it's kind of important that we listen and that we've got these settings kind of dialed in here and it's sounding nice. We've got a really quick attack, really quick release, and that's okay because we're trying to kind of attack this sound. But the threshold is the point at which it starts compressing. And listening in the mix, this is kind of the human element to it. This is the right, where is it that it actually needs to happen? So listening in the mix, you can just tune this and make it so we're just getting out the way as much as we need to and not completely destroying the sound altogether.
You gotta stop if you're slowing down. You walk a thin line between peace and a battleground. It's daylight. You gotta stop if you're slowing down. You walk a thin line between peace and a battleground.
To me, that's getting out the way nicely. And if we actually listen to that in solo, then you'll hear it's quite aggressive. We really are bringing down the level quite considerably. The most important thing here is that it's working in the mix. Nobody's going to listen to your synth soloed. That's not what it's all about. You can hit the solo button and you can hear it, but who cares? It's what happens in the mix, and that's the most important thing. So if we're dealing with percussive synths and keyboard parts, then we're going to be approaching them in a similar way to individual drums. And that's when we're dealing with percussive synths, because we're knocking off the peaks and getting them to kind of sit back and get out of the way. It's also adding a kind of subtle fattening to the sound and rounding things out. But on the other side of the coin, for more sustained keyboards, I personally like to approach them kind of slightly differently. So this keyboard part is kind of chilled. It's an electric piano sound from Contact, and it's a bit more of a sustained chord part, but the attack is just kind of missing something and the sustain doesn't really feel like it's enough. Well, compression can solve both these issues, so check it out and then we'll dive in. Again, I'm going to bring this threshold all the way up so it's on, but it's not doing anything. Okay, so what we can do with this is something completely different and something that is far more subtle. because this kind of part, it doesn't really need slamming with compression. It doesn't need the transients fully taking away. It just needs some overall kind of hugging and some overall warming up. So if I start to bring this threshold down, you're going to hear this compression start to take place, and it's going to start to just everything kind of gel together a bit more. So we're approaching this in quite a different way. It's bringing up the low end a little bit, and it's just overall gelling things together. I'm not trying to completely destroy the transients, and for that reason I've got the attack up at just over 100 milliseconds. We're allowing a little bit through. The key difference here really is the ratio. Previously we were at about 7:1, something like that, because we were being quite aggressive. Here we're at 2.5:1. So this is much more relaxed, much more gentle on the sound, and allowing everything to kind of come through a little less affected. So even though the bits that are getting compressed, they're not getting compressed as much. Just take a look at the orange trace here and we'll see how much compression we're actually getting, but it's a different kind of shape of compression. It's not real transient stuff, it's more of a sustained compression. So we're actually getting maybe like 8 dB of compression, but it doesn't really sound like it because we're not using too aggressive settings. We're compressing for a considerable portion of the overall sound, but it's all compressed. So it's kind of the same as, instead of it being just really percussive and compressed and then quickly not compressed, we're compressing for longer periods, and we're kind of compressing a lot more of it. And that's due to this threshold being down quite a long way. So we're actually compressing for almost the full duration of the signal. And the thing you can notice here, or the thing that is kind of, I guess, difficult to notice, is that it is very subtle, and it's about having something that just gels together. You hear the effect in the low end, you hear the effect in the overall sustain, you hear the effect in the attack, but it's when you A/B it that you're actually hearing the difference and how much better it sounds. You're not actually just listening to it and thinking, wow, that sounds smashed, that sounds really compressed, but without it, it kind of sounds a little bit empty. But then with it, we're doing something completely different than with the percussive side of things. We're just gently hugging stuff. We've got low ratios, a relatively long attack, and fast release. Remember that fast release is going to allow us to bring the body up. So one more time, bypassed, and then with the effect on, you hear it just come together a bit more, a little bit more gelled, a little bit more together. We could go a bit more heavy-handed with this if we wanted to increase the ratio. We'll hear that this alters the attack as well. It makes the attack kind of come through a little bit more because we're allowing the attack to come through. To me, it sounds a little cluttered and it sounds a bit too compressed, but to you, it may be absolutely perfect for your track. So let's just increase this ratio a little bit and get a bit more compression. So we're completely changing the overall kind of characteristic of it there. I like the kind of mellow sound that it had originally. I just wanted to amplify that a little bit. Changing this, the ratio, to having it to around 7.7:1, essentially 8:1, we're making it so that the attack is far more pronounced, and we're really changing the sound of this keyboard. If that's what you're after, then this is a great way of doing it. Keep the attack so the initial percussive portion is coming through, bring that ratio up, and it's going to make it so that you've got better attack on there. But to me, in this track, I needed it to be a little gentler, so having that ratio kind of 2:1, 2.5:1 was a bit better suited. I hope it's been useful for you, and if you want to check out how the parameters of a compressor are going to affect other instruments in the mix, make sure you check out the rest of the videos in this series. There's numerous ways that we can compress a synth or a keyboard part. Those are just a couple of them, and hopefully that's given you some sort of direction. If I want to increase the attack on the instrument, then I can go and alter the attack and the ratio in this way. If I want to increase the sustain, then I can bring the release down. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care.